Right. Every week at Business at Breakfast, one of the members gets the opportunity to share with the group a little bit more about themselves or enlighten the group more about what they do and what they do in business. They could seek assistance from the group or ask for a bit of a problem solving. I have this problem that needs solving. Can you guys help me out? Sort of, they can use the section however they like. Today, we have the wonderful, let me pen him in, add. We have the wonderful Chris Willems. Now, Chris is a mime. He lives in Australia. He's one of the few Australians that are out with us today. He lives in Australia. He is a mime expert, but he actually helps with becoming comfortable, confident, and credible on camera. Should I say that 5 times fast? Don't worry about what you look like. Worry about what you sound like. And Chris has been with us. Dr. Chris has been with us for, over a year now, I reckon.
Oh, at least, yeah.
Yeah. And I thought it would be nice. I know, and so it's been at least that long since you've spoken to the group. I thought it would be nice to get a bit of a recap as to what it is that you're doing. So for everybody who speaks at Business at Breakfast, I don't let anyone just speak. I give you either most people come in, they have a coaching session and they know in advance what they're going to talk on because we go through that in a coaching session, the structure, and we do a practice Q&A first. Otherwise, sometimes I get to grab people depending on who was able to turn up and who wasn't to the meeting. I get to grab people, but I'm not going to let Chris just talk however he likes. I'm going to give you a bit of structure, Dr. Chris, and you only have to follow the structure so that then we can ask questions in a particular way. All right. And the reason I do this is because I do find that over the years, so for 12 years, I've been at networking events and taking notes. I've taken notes on over 2,000 presentations, and most people leave with this. This is the comment I hear. Oh my God, I really like that person. That was great. And then I ask simple questions like, can you tell me what they sell? No. Can you tell me who they help? No. Can you tell me anything that you know about their business moving forward so you can help them out in any way? No, but I can tell you I really like them and I like their talk. Well, that's great. But we are here to practice talking about what it is that we do. So Dr. Chris, I want you to start with your elevator pitch. And I know in your elevator pitch, you tell us what it is that you sell, right? So I want your elevator pitch, and then I want the history of how you came about teaching this in the first place. Fast history, and then stop talking. So while technically you've got 8 minutes, it will take you way less than that because we, the audience, are going to take up the rest of the time asking you questions. So I want the elevator pitch and the history of you to this thing, and then leave the rest up to us to guide you.
Okay.
Take it away.
Now, it's very early in the morning and I'm flummoxed. Hi, everyone. Dr. Chris Willams, ArtsMedia Consultants. I help business owners, CEOs and professionals and entrepreneurs who loathe presenting get to love it through my CCC Mastery Program. So if you need a quick fix before your next presenting event, or you want to transform into a more comfortable, confident and credible business presenter, whether that's on stage, on screen or online, please feel free to give me a shout. I love helping people make the leap to confidently and authentically present and represent their businesses. And so how I arrived at this point, I was a mime artist. I have a background in the arts of 40 something years. And for 25 of those years, I was a professional mime artist. And what I've done is bring those performance skills, those non-verbal performance skills into the corporate communication context. And I've been coaching in that context for 23 years or so. I'm really old. And so it's remarkable how mime, the subtlety and delicacy of movement, of that kind of movement performance is applicable because business, 55% of communication is about body language, non-verbal communication, 38% is how you sound, and 7% is what you say. So if those three things aren't working together, the non-verbal, the verbal, and the content, then no one's going to take a blind bit of notice of you or your message or your business. So it's really important to make those things work together. In more recent years, because I have a background in television as well, I've brought that into the on-camera context, particularly, I was doing it before COVID, but COVID's kind of accelerated all of that. And the situation we are in at the moment, literally we are on camera, all of us. We have the opportunity with these small postage stamp size or matchbox size frames to create. It's effectively a micro business video, what we're doing now. And I look scanning the screen, and lots of us have, names of our businesses, etc., in the background. That's great. That's fantastic. Too many people lose or don't realize that's an opportunity, like a micro marketing opportunity. So coming up to now, to this point in one's career and the context, we have no choice. We're using video. We have no choice. 500 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube every minute. That's not a typo. Every minute, 500 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube. So we all need to find our own, our own way of cutting through that tsunami, of visual information. And so that's what I do. I help people do exactly that, to cut through and make memorable videos. And the most important thing about all of that, the most important thing, is the human connection. And what Misty's groups are great because it's all about the human connections. And yes, it's about business. We do a pitch, but who are these people that we're talking to and that we're sharing the screen with? Who are you all? It's great to get to know people on that human level, because ultimately that's who we relate to. We don't relate to the business, we relate to the person who is the business or runs the business or represents the business. And so it's the human to human connection.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Chris. All right, who has questions for Dr. Chris? Yep, River.
That was great. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to talking to you, or Zooming with you, if you will, because I think we're on different continents, actually.
Yeah.
But when you say the most important part is the human connection, and so you're about helping people make videos that actually create more human connection. Is that fair to say? Did I get that right?
Yes, River, absolutely. And there's a strange irony in that, because we're using the very dehumanizing medium of video and television, because it's a two-dimensional medium, and we need to find our own ways, plural, of utilizing that in a very human way, and making those human connections, because ultimately that's what it's all about. And I mean, someone like Misty, who runs this group, has a particular kind of personality that we all relate to. Otherwise, we wouldn't come back. And so that's a very human connection. Yes, the medium is dehumanizing, but it's how we utilize the medium. We're in great danger of technology overwhelming us and becoming so disconnecting. And the great irony there is it's meant to connect everyone, and it actually disconnects more people than it connects. And I can bore you with figures about that. But there's a great.
Can I ask one other question? So what is it like? Can you give an example of how you make somebody like a speaker like me, or any one of us, right? Because we're doing our YouTube channels. What's one thing that you would do to make something to create more of that human connection?
The most fundamental part of human communication is eye contact. And ironically, I'm using that word a lot today. Ironically, when we're on Zoom, we think we're making eye contact because we're seeing everybody. Of course, we're making eye contact because I can see all your faces. However, from your point of view, I'm not making eye contact with you because I'm looking at the screen. If I lift my gaze to the lens, now I'm making eye contact with you from your point of view, but from my point of view, I'm not, because I can only see all of you peripherally. Okay, but so one of the ways using Zoom or creating YouTube videos is to make sure you're looking down the barrel at the lens when you're speaking. Okay, so when you're hosting, look at the lens. When you're listening, happy to look at the screen.
Oh, awesome! Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Who else has a question for Dr. Chris? I'm going to ask you, Dr. Chris, who traditionally have you worked with over the years? Like, what sort of industries have you worked with?
Oh, I have a slide that says that all sorts of corporate people, resources industries, engineering, education. I've coached lots of academics in universities who are all told, oh, yes, we need to put everything online, but they're not coached in how to do that well. So, you know, someone who's comfortable talking to 400 people in an auditorium in a lecture, it's remarkable how they can look like frightened bunnies when you poke a camera in their faces and go, okay, you've got to turn your 1 hour lecture into a 5-minute video, and you don't do that by talking faster. So it's finding ways of getting people to convert to adapt their content to suit the medium.
Excellent. I'm mindful of a particular industry. Now, who knows anyone in sports? Could be a kid growing up in sports, wants to play basketball, wants to be in the NBA or anything like that. Who knows anyone who's like right into sports, right? Sports commentation. Like at the other side of playing sport is there's an opportunity of being a commentator. Now, it could be a kid literally commentating about like at a school radio channel or something like that. But it's amazing how much that's needed, that whole camera thing. Who's seen people be interviewed, sports people be interviewed, and you think, that's atrocious. Right. We have an Aussie girl, Susie Moroney. She was terrible whenever somebody went to talk to her. Now, here's a woman who swims all over the world. Now, you can imagine she's in a shark tank all the time, swimming from Australia to New Zealand to America to all over the place. It's really not a team sport. So when she gets out, like a fish, right? When she gets out of the water and then someone wants to interview her, she's like, oh, blah, 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 blah. What was really interesting, I found that as she got older, so I was sort of in my 20s, I think we're fairly similar age. So when I was in my 20s, Susie Moroney had decided that she didn't want, I remember this article being on like the news, like 60 Minutes or something, about the unfairness of a Australian national icon who, you know, is getting older and doesn't really want to swim all over the world anymore. And Qantas, our main airplane, wouldn't even hire her to be an air hostess. And I thought, no, but she can't speak to anybody and she's never done teamwork before. When you've never had a job, you have to start at like the supermarket and learn to say, hello, I'll bag your groceries. Like, that's it. That's like, it has to start there. So I do find sports people are quite an interesting space for them to learn how to speak, because eventually they are going to be, the plan is that they'll end up being on TV, but then there could be commentation that comes from that if they learn to speak well. If you think about those commentators, they spoke well to start with.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, television executives kind of assume that someone who's good at football or tennis or swimming or whatever will just naturally be able to talk about it. Yes, they know a lot about it, but they're experts in it, but they're not necessarily good at articulating what they know. And so they need training, and it's unfair on them to have an expectation that, oh, here's a microphone, here's a camera, start talking. It just doesn't happen that way.
It's not automatic, is it? It's just not automatic.
Yeah. So, but the reason that you want to hear from them is because they know everything about the sport, absolutely everything. And it's great. I mean, I watch Formula One and I watch tennis. I'm watching the French Open at the moment. But Formula One is very complex sport. It's remarkably complex. And the people they get to talk about that really, really know what they're doing. And most of those people are former Formula One drivers. So it's just having the information, just having the knowledge is not enough. You need to be able to articulate that knowledge.
Absolutely. Lewis, I'm going to get you to ask a question in just a second, and I am watching the time. But just speaking on sports commentation, when COVID hit, there was a Scottish sports commentator, Andrew Cotter, who started commentating his Labradors on YouTube. Super funny. Super funny. And he would commentate them eating breakfast and who was going to win over that, and whether or not wagging the tail was helping or hindering, and you know, the joy of which they're doing it, and battling over a toy and things like that. And anyhow, he wrote 2 books during COVID. about the dogs, but also about sports commentary. And and how that kind of works together. But he said, as a sports commentator, you really you have to be optimistic all the time, or you end up with these gruesome emails getting sent to you, and that you need to know stuff about stuff that's sort of related to the person you're talking about, but that's got nothing to do with the person. So it could be, let's say, Kathy was a world famous tennis player, and she played tennis, and we knew that she had a YouTube channel and that she watched the movies. Well, then you'd need to know that Mary Poppins is her favorite movie. So let's talk about Julia Andrews, and where Julia Andrews is in life. But notice it's sort of related to Kathy, but in this really obscure way. And then he needs to know all this other random stuff that sounds very optimistic, that's got nothing to do with the sport, but somehow relates back to the sport and the person who's playing. It's really funny to hear all the information of which a good commentator can go back on as well. I think they'd be good at trivia nights, like really good. Lewis, you had your hand up? I'll get you in just before we finish up here. Can't hear you, you're on mute.
You're on, can't hear you.
Lewis, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge what Chris does, how important it is. I had a radio show for a decade on national public radio, and which is pretty big now. And I was pretty arrogant and went in. I was a great communicator. I had a mentor, and I was getting mentored about every 4 seconds about how good I was as a communicator, but how bad I was as a radio show host. And I was constantly being mentored on don't say this, don't say that, don't do this, don't lean the mic this way. Just, it was endless, and it had a major impact. So I just want to tell everybody, you know, you're not going to make up being a great communicator from pixie dust. It ain't going to happen. And you're in a medium right now where you get 30 seconds to get business. And I don't know Chris, we've never spoken. I cannot emphasize how important his skill sets are for anybody who's looking to get business through an environment like this.
Excellent.
Thanks for your kind words, Lewis. Thank you.
Thank you.